Good evening, everyone. Shout out to you, YouTube. What's going on, Facebook? Shout out to Gail Reed for getting on the stream tonight. Thank you. Shout out to Beverly Reed. Love you both. Thank you for getting on the stream tonight. Get started in just a minute. Moderators, if you can hear if the sound is good, let me know. Let me know if the audio is sufficient. Put a 1 in the chat box if the sound is good. You can hear my voice clearly. Thank you. Give me a 1 in the chat room if that sound is good. That sound level is better. Before we get started. Thank you. All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Again, I trust that everyone has had a fantastic evening and afternoon today. I hope that you all got a chance to catch the live stream that I did on YouTube yesterday. It was very good. Got a pretty good response from that stream yesterday. And if you didn't get an opportunity, you can go to my YouTube page, which is called Let's Talk About It Now. Let's Talk About It Now on YouTube. When you go into the building, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you also share that particular stream so that it notifies everyone who may not be familiar with the fact that that channel is up and available. I appreciate the support. We're going to get right into it. See the topic tonight. The modern woman uses failed relationships as a battleground. Now, what does that mean? When you think of a battleground, you think of a conflict between two sides. And in that conflict between those two sides, often, if you're viewing it from the outside, you don't really know who's right and you don't really know who's wrong. You just see two sides battling, back and forth, looking to hurt one another. That's the objective in war, and that's the objective on a battleground. It's not to make friends. It's not to make peace. The whole idea, the whole concept of conflict resolution has already been exhausted. The only objective at this point, once it becomes a war between the two sides, the only objective at that point is to do harm or to inflict harm on either side. That's the objective. Well, you see the subject tonight. The modern woman uses failed relationships as a battleground. And unfortunately, in any war that we've ever known, you find casualties. You find individuals who had nothing to do with that war itself. Some may call it friendly fire that causes individuals to die. Or to be harmed or injured. I find it interesting. Technical difficulty. We got it. It came back. Good. These kind of things happen. We build it as we fight. Anyway, as I was saying, in war on two sides, you're finding the objective is to cause pain to each side, injury, and even death. Well, in a relationship that fails, oftentimes what the modern woman does is she takes that failure of that relationship, and because it failed, she begins to choose her weapon of choice. Now, on the flip side, if there are issues in the relationship, oftentimes in modern times, and even in times past, the choice may be made between both sides, the man in that relationship and the woman in that relationship, to keep that relationship together if, in fact, there are children involved. A lot of times, the rationale behind that in staying together is we don't want to separate while the children are still young. We don't want to break up the family while the children are still young, because then the children will be adversely affected by the breakup of the home. And we do understand that that has some truth to it. We know that most young men in particular find themselves either suffering with social issues, emotional issues, and sadly, incarceration. Usually coming from a single parent home where, in fact, at some point, a man was present. How does that affect a young lady? In a broken home where the man was present at some point, but the relationship began to falter. So once the man is out of the house, now the woman, the young lady, she grows up, and oftentimes the symptoms of a broken home where a female is concerned is she becomes very promiscuous. She becomes very emotionally unstable. She tends to be angry, very angry, misplaced anger because of unanswered questions. Or she's been given answers to questions, but those answers have been false. They have not been true. They've been, to the most part, they've been disingenuous at best. And that's usually because of the mother's emotional instability as a result of the failure of the relationship. Now here's where the talking point tonight is going to tie into the subject. Again, the subject tonight: the modern woman uses failed relationships as a battleground, and unfortunately the weapon of choice in today's modern society. It's happened in times past, but we can see it very prevalent today. It's used in so many different areas, from the inside, internally, within the house, and from the outside, externally, where government programs are used as a weapon where the children are concerned. And then the children become weapons of choice. This is what we want to get into tonight. This is what we want to get into tonight, because this is the problem. This is a major, major problem in many communities, and in the Black community in particular. I'm going to go into the description of the stream tonight. What are we saying? It says in the description, more often than not, in most failed relationships and or marriage, the aftermath, the battleground, is littered with casualties. These casualties are usually unsuspecting victims who suffer with the wounds and scars from a war they had nothing to do with. What has the modern woman chose as her weapon of choice? Let's go into it, because here are a few of the weapons that's chose. How often have many of you seen, perhaps not you, but I'm sure you know someone who's guilty of what I'm about to describe. How often have you seen women that have been in relationships and the relationship falls apart, fails, right? Which is a common thing that can happen, because we know that there are no guarantees in anything that we do. We're not guaranteed to keep our job. We're not guaranteed to wake up tomorrow. We're certainly not guaranteed in a relationship that it will succeed. And even if it has all the outward trimmings of success, there is always sometimes an underlying element to every relationship where in fact it has failed. It has faltered, and a lot of times it's over long before you see the end result of that separation. So we know women right now, even if it's not you, that in the event of a failed relationship, they used the system if children were involved. Now we're going into the weapon of choice. Today's modern woman has used their children as the prime weapon of choice. so sad that you would use your children as your primary weapon of choice. Ladies, if you have been guilty of that, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And if you are doing that currently, at the time of this stream, for those of you that catch it now or watch it after it's no longer streaming live in real time, if you are guilty of that, stop it, ladies. Stop it. What is your end goal in using your children as the weapon of choice against the men that you selected, that you allowed into your life, if in fact that relationship goes left? Why do you use your children as the weapon of choice against the father who you decided to give children to? Something to think about. But often, more often than not, this is what's going on in so many communities, and in the black community in particular. This is the pervasive disease that afflicts women, black women in particular, in so many different communities, on so many different levels. What's used? Conversation is used to paint a narrative about why the relationship didn't work. Any of you who have ever had situations like that, your child came to you after the relationship was dissolved and they said to you something along these lines: "Mommy, why is daddy gone?" Right? He doesn't love us anymore. And some of you had so much of the devil in you that you appeased the question by saying, "No, he don't love us no more. He abandoned us. He doesn't care about us anymore. Don't worry about him. We will be fine without him." This is the conversation you're having. What I want to say to you, mother, what are you teaching your daughter? What perspective, what vision, what idea, mental concept are you teaching her as she grows up into adulthood and becomes a woman and begins now to seek after a mate? How are you telling her to view men who share her reflection? How are you teaching her? What program are you giving her? And I will tell you this, ladies, it's really wicked. It's really wicked that you would create a program and install that program chip into the back of your children's heads as it relates to the men that you chose. Did your son have anything to do with the fact that you chose the wrong individual? I think not. Did your daughter have anything to do with the fact that you chose the wrong man? Is that her fault? No, not at all. See what a good mother would do. A good mother would allow her children to form their own opinion, their own perspective, their own viewpoint about the source of their life outside of you. See, you provide the egg, he provides the seed. You both have something to do and play a very important part in the birth of both of those children, be it a daughter or be it a son. Why sabotage their whole future? Give them an unstable emotional outlook, not only on themselves, but on life in general. Give them an unhealthy perspective, not only with themselves, but with the whole ideal concept of relationship. Why, mother, would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you choose your children as the weapon of choice, as opposed to taking accountability yourself? Oh, we both need to take accountability for our bad behavior and our bad attitudes and what we do to contribute, no doubt. That goes for both sides, male and female. But I will tell you this, for men, we have always had to take accountability. Men get no pass for bad behavior. Men get no pass for mistakes. The world gives no understanding to a man because the world knows, the world believes, and the world expects. Whether spoken or unspoken, the world knows and the world expects for a man to make it happen, regardless of the obstacle, regardless of the issue, regardless of the problem, regardless of where he's being discriminated against. Oh, he's expected to kick down every detour, break down every barrier, to get it done. That's what's expected, either spoken or unspoken. But with you, ladies, do you take accountability for the part you play in the relationships that you have that have failed? And if they fail, why would you choose your children as the weapon of choice? Why would you use the child support system? Let's talk about it. Why would you use the child support system as the weapon of choice? Your kids are involved in that entire scenario. Many of you ladies have no interest in many of the men that you found yourself pregnant with. You heard me say in previous streams, so many of you, the modern woman, black women in particular, you remain pregnant longer than you're in relationships. You find yourself pregnant longer than you're in the relationship. Oh yeah. And before you give birth, you're already putting the paperwork in because your idea is to do harm to what you gave access to. What did you give access to? Your body. Your body. Men determine relationships and or marriage. You determine access to your body and sex. There is no female on the planet, including you that watch this stream. There is no female on the planet that had a baby by mistake. Nah, I know that's what you say. I know that's what the story you've told. I know. Oops, it was a mistake. Nah, there's no mistake. You know why there's no mistake? There's over 35 methods of birth control. You couldn't find one? Not even one? Okay, let's give you the argument that perhaps it was a mistake. I know, maybe the condom broke, right? Well, let's go there. What happened during the 8 to 9 months of gestation? You again had the choice. I mean, today's modern woman, you're fighting for the abortion rights. Now, make no mistake, I'm not an advocate of abortion. No, not at all. But this is the thing that the modern woman is fighting for. She wants the right to access her body at the choice that she chooses. So in fact, what she's saying, if I in fact find myself pregnant, don't tell me that I can't abort the child I'm carrying. Don't tell me that. So this is what the modern woman is fighting for. It's all over the news. That Roe versus Wade overturned in one state and played with in many others. It's really a silly argument because what the story and the narrative should be for the modern woman and any woman in general, black women in particular, because our community is the one that's being most affected by the garbage. Absolutely. Our community is being affected in severe ways by this kind of behavior. And you know why? Because the whole idea, the whole concept of taking relationships serious has today become an absolute joke. Oh, it's a joke now. It's just going through the motions now. See, the modern woman today, oftentimes she's getting married for a lot of the wrong reasons. Yeah. The natural instinct, the natural inclination of any woman is to be provided for. Don't get me wrong, ladies. I understand. It's what you should expect. It's what you should expect from us. It is to get out there the best we can and make some things happen for you. Why? Because we are put on this earth to take care of you. We are on this earth by nature to protect you, to provide for you. And when we falter in those areas, trust me, it affects us deeply. But I want to say to you, who get into relationships where a man is trying to exercise that natural inclination that he has to protect and to provide. What part is most important to you? Is it the provision? Is it the protection? Is your expectations for the men that you choose equal to the expectations that he would have for you as described as a long-term relationship and or marriage? Are your expectations equal? Or do you have another motive involved? Sadly, I will tell you, the modern woman today, black women in particular, the motives are diabolical at best. Many women get into relationships, and it's all about what he can do for me. The more he can do, the more I'll stay. The less he can do, the more I'll leave. The more I'll begin to look, to find, to see, to explore, if in fact the grass is greener on the other side, only to find that you may run up on some astroturf. It looks green. It looks green. In fact, astroturf looks greener than natural grass. But from a distance, it looks real nice. Relationships are made up of more than what we both can get materialistically. See, today's modern woman does not see the need to respect the man's unless he is looked at as a utility. He's no longer looked at as a necessity. He's looked at as a utility. How can I utilize this guy? How can I utilize him? When I can no longer utilize him, I cast him aside like a used pair of shoes in most cases. Or I look for an alternative. But see, here's the saddest part, as I started the stream off saying. Oftentimes, in most cases, children are now involved. Children are involved. You're talking about an innocent, unsuspecting victim whose mind is like a sponge. Oh yeah, whose mind is like a sponge. Anything that you say to a young child, it's taken as the truth when they hear it from you. Why? Because they know to trust you. Ladies, your children trust you if you're all they have. Why not take more consideration? Why not be careful about what you say, even if, in fact, you're disappointed at the outcomes you've had in that relationship? Why not be careful? Why not be responsible and not irresponsible in your tone, in your tongue? Use your tongue responsibly. This is what I would say to you. This is what I would say to you. All relationships, again, as I said, are not guaranteed to last to the end of life. That is the objective. That is the objective. All relationships should be focused at getting to the end of life. What do I mean by that? I mean dying together. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. I mean dying together. Not staying together to see if it works. No. You're coming in with the wrong idea. You're coming with the wrong intentions. If you want a relationship to truly work, you have to come in with an idea, with a concept and an attitude that failure is not an option. That means you both do checks and balances with your own behavior. Oh yeah. And here's the thing, if you don't do that, and you make the devastating mistake of having children not having made that determination, you're setting your children up to fail. You've already had your shot. You'd already had your chance. Why would you sabotage survival in the field? In what? The field of life for your children, by creating a battleground and then choosing your children as the weapon of choice. Why would you do that? Ladies, why would you do that? Why would you have children by a man who you know loves his children, cares for his children, desires to be in his children's life? And because you know that, you drag that man in and out of court. Like a wolf in the woods, you drag him in and out of the courts, showing your uselessness as a wife, or even as a long-term relationship, or even as a girlfriend. It's clear if you are behaving that way, you were never qualified for anybody to keep you. Why would you do that? Oh, I know I'm hitting you. I know I'm all up in your house. And I know you may not like it. So what? If you're guilty of what I'm saying, I am talking to you. If you are guilty of doing that to your children's father, weaponizing your children against their father, I am talking to you. You're a vulture. Oh yeah, and the worst kind. The worst kind. The modern woman sees every opportunity in so many cases to be reckless, to be irresponsible, and then utilize the system along with her children in tow as the weapon against the men that she gave the best gift you can give a man, and that is a child. What manner of woman are you? What manner of woman are you? And you wonder why your outcomes are what they are. And here's the thing, ladies. Many of you didn't stop there. Because if you've had children by someone else who did not care about the children, oh, you didn't chase them down like a wolf, no. See, you get no gratification in your hurt and in your disappointment in the failure of that relationship, because now you want to get revenge because of the failure of the relationship. What I find is that many of you today, women, the modern women, black women in particular, those of you that have had failed relationships and find yourself with multiple children's fathers, here's what you've done. Or you'll chase that good one down, and you always know who the good one is. Everybody knows who the good one is. But the pookies that you gave a child to, the nug-nugs that you gave a child to, the murder Mikes, Trigger, that you gave the child to, you don't chase them down. You know why? Because you know you can't get anything from them. Not at all. You can't drag them through the system. No. You can't even find a place of employment. Nug don't work. Pookie don't work. Murder Mike? Nah. He ain't got no job. Ain't even looking for it. But that good one, that more than likely, had you been the right one, you could have gotten to the end of life with that one. I didn't say a perfect man. Nah. You're not perfect. We're not perfect. But there's a difference between imperfection and outright garbage. What manner of woman are you? If you are like this, I am talking to you. I am talking to you. about your children. Ladies, think about your children. Do you want your son to repeat and become the same man that you hate and who you've gotten bad outcomes from if you have sons? Do you want your daughter to become you? That's a good question for you. Do you want your daughter to become you? Because that's what's happening. That's what's happening all over the country. In many communities, the black community in particular. That is what's happening with many women, black women in particular. This is the kind of dysfunction that's going on. Why? Because the modern woman has made failed relationships her battleground, and her weapon of choice has become unsuspecting victims. Unsuspecting victims who had nothing to do with the conflict between the two sides, yet they find themselves victims nonetheless, injured nonetheless, and suffering from those same injuries throughout their entire life. Do you want your daughter to become like you? Before you get triggered, before you get angry at this talking point, ask yourself, sit down for once and just ask yourself, do you want your sons to become the same man that walked out on you that you're angry about right now? And do you want your daughter to become like you? Ask yourself that question. If you fumbled with the decisions you made, give her a chance. Give him a chance to do something different, to do something better than perhaps you were unable to do. Give him a chance. That's all I'm saying. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. They deserve a chance. And if you love your children, then you will give them that chance. If you don't, I understand why you take the darker side of things, why you behave as a wolf. I understand. I understand. The dysfunction is like the pandemic. You possess a virus, and that virus is affecting your children. Has affected, is affecting, and this is so long of a virus that we have experienced in our community for decades. Decades. Ladies, those of you that behave in this manner, you are representative of the problem that we see every time we look out the front door. I said in all of my streams, where there are no decent women, you will find no decent men. You will never find any decent men where there are no decent women. Why is that important? You're the first teacher. You're the first nurturer. You are responsible in the early years of growth with your children, long before it becomes an obligation in terms of close interaction where the father is concerned, if he's present. Again, his job is to protect and provide. But your job is much more important where the children are concerned in the early years. What we see in our communities is a direct reflection of what you are and what you've become today in this modern society, the modern woman, black women in particular. What we see in every community, I don't care what state it is, I don't care where it is in the United States or even outside of these borders. What you see as it relates to dysfunction, single parent homes, is the same. You are the first line of defense. But the modern woman today, in her failed relationships, has begun to use those failed relationships as a battleground. And she's made her choice of the weapon she will use. Sadly, it's been your children, unsuspecting victims, minds like sponges, trusting, believing that you are their protection, trusting, believing, and looking up to you. All along, behind the scenes, you are not what they believe. You are not what they're thinking you are because of your bad decisions. Ladies, we have to turn this thing around. It must get turned around. Otherwise, you remain the problem, not the solution. Not at all. You want a better community. Women, black women in particular, have to become better women. They will then produce better men. You know why? Because they'll become better women and relationships will last. Relationships will be healthy. They will be meaningful. You will find men and women coming together in term relationships and or marriage, and you will find communities thriving. As I've said, there is no productive, functioning community without relationships. You can always tell the problem in a community, black community in particular. When you see the dysfunction, you know it's because of deficiency in relationship. You know it. When you see it, it's clear. It's very clear. It's very clear. We have to change the trajectory of what we see in front of us and what we are experiencing in every community. We can no longer continue, ladies, to use our children. And let me say this. There are situations, and let me touch this. There are situations where the relationship failed and the father got full custody. And he acted just as feminine, just as silly, just as wolf-like as the wolf-like female did. There are men that use their children as weapons as well. Talking about the mother like she's a dog to his children. See, when you got too silly, immature, childlike, adolescent, ignorant, silly, male or females in relationships that fail. You're looking at two adults in body, but you're looking at two children in mind. Anyone, any male and any female that reaches puberty can give birth to a child. That don't mean you know what the hell you're doing. Not at all. In many cases, a lot of you ladies that find yourself pregnant, you're pregnant by the guy that just learned how to piss straight last week. And then therein lies the problem. It doesn't take you long because this society promotes this. No doubt. It doesn't take long to figure out where your leverage lies. It doesn't take long. Again, the subject title tonight, the modern woman uses failed relationships as a battleground. And she selected her weapon of choice, sadly. And that weapon of choice has been her children. Ladies, again, as I close, if you are doing this, please stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're sentencing not only your children to a life of dysfunction, but you've sentenced yourself to a life where no man, and I mean none, will find you desirable enough to keep. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Stop it. Turn this thing around. Stop allowing your family members, ladies, if you're doing this, involve themselves in a decision that was made between you and the man that had those children. Yeah, keep your family out of your business. You need to learn how to handle your own business. That's where a problem is right there. You want others to handle your business, but you need to learn how to handle your business. Handle your own business and keep others out. And this silliness about visitation with your children, stop it. Stop it. It's amazing how pleasurable it was to make the children. And now all of a sudden you feel like you're in hell after the children are born because the relationship didn't work. Stop it. You make yourself look silly. Men, if you're doing that with your children and you have full custody, you really need to get out of your feminine. Because men don't even function nor act that way. And ladies, if you are doing that, you really need to stop it also. It's really disgusting. If you got your children being picked up in undisclosed locations, as opposed to you and that man coming together like two mature adults, you make yourself look like a jackass. I just want to be honest with you. You really look silly. You get no points in maturity for that. No, not at all. You're hurting your children. You're hurting your sons. You're hurting your daughters. Stop it. Undisclosed locations. A police department or some other undisclosed professional location. Because you and him are so immature that you can't come together like two productive adults and get your foot out of your own ass and pay more attention to what the priority of things are, and that's your children. This is such a sick disease in communities and in the black community in particular. And I'm telling you, it really frustrates me. It's absolutely disgusting. The modern woman, black women in particular, you have used failed relationships as a battleground. And your weapon of choice has become your children, be it sons or be it daughters. And what I'd like to say to you, grow up, stop it. And with that being said, I thank all of you that got on the stream tonight. I felt that this was a very important subject to deal with, although uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable for me to do it, as well as it may be uncomfortable for you to hear it. But I believe medicine is not always good, but take it you must. Take it you must. Again, with that being said, I am your host, Charles Chambers. This is another stream of Let's Talk About It. And I thank all of you for getting on the line tonight, on the stream tonight. I pray that you all have a fantastic and positive, productive day tomorrow. With that being said, we are gone.